I think it's really important that, this be looked at holistically and addressed. I don't think it requires a session.
Hi there, it's WAMC News Director Ian Pickus. And on this episode of the WAMC News Podcast, we speak with New York State Assemblymember Didi Barrett. Well, New York State Assemblymember Didi Barrett is a Democrat from the 106th District. In recent days, she's been touting roughly $370,000 in grant funding for various programs combating food insecurity in the Hudson Valley. She spoke about that, the state's immigration challenges, and her priorities for the next state budget with WAMC's Hudson Valley Bureau Chief Jesse King.
It's been really kind of an extraordinary, sub-story of the whole pandemic, because one of the things that we learned was that our dependence on a food chain that relies on other countries or other parts of the state or of other states is really very tenuous. And things, immediately we saw supermarkets were emptied, even as people were spending more time at home eating. But people who were no longer working or whose incomes were cut considerably found that suddenly they had to make choices that often included, not eating or not being able to have the kind of nutritious food that they were used to. And a lot of different not-for-profits started up kitchens, and we in Columbia County, the Columbia County Recovery Kitchen launched and has still going strong. A lot of other organizations, some of the Meals on Wheels programs that both the state and the not-for-profit sector run saw a huge increase. It was really an acute problem that kind of exploded, and we saw even with meat packaging and distribution facilities around in other parts of the country, how if a COVID ran through their workforce, they all shut down, and so people couldn't access their usual supply of whatever kinds of meats or packaged protein that they were used to. And it became clear that closer to home, knowing the local farms, the small farms, really became much more engaged in feeding their neighbors. And because we are so fortunate to have all of these amazing farms here and farm stands and farm stores, we have been fortunate, but not everybody can afford what's being sold. Not everybody has access. And so we really found it important to work with our community colleges to be sure that students were being able to eat and keep their brains healthy and be able to when you're hungry you can't focus on other things. So that was one focus for us of Dutchess Community College and Columbia Green Community College, and then the other organizations that we've been able to fund we're working in different ways. Northeast Community Center is focused over in the northeastern part of Dutchess County, and they have a food bank and a kind of a CSA program that just increased, and more and more people are coming into their the center there, looking to rely on their food bank there. We have an extraordinary organization called Long Table Harvest, which has been working for a number of years. They're gleaners and basically working with farms in both Columbia and Dutchess County to access the food that's left on the land, to bring them to a number of different organizations, youth serving organizations, senior organizations, other projects, after school programs in Hudson and throughout the district. So that was another group, and then Dutchess Outreach, which is in Poughkeepsie, works with the city school district there, but also has a food pantry with Sun River Health. And then the Sylvia Center is a really wonderful program in Columbia County that works with community-based organizations and schools and local businesses, and not just and teaches kids how to grow food and how to eat food and how that healthy food and use vegetables in a way that may not be the way that they were familiar. I always love the story because in every kind of opportunity like this, there's always kids who were like, I thought that carrots grew in cellophane bags. I thought they just came like that in the supermarket. And when they see one growing in the ground, it's a completely different experience. But the Sylvia Center has really created opportunities for these kids to bring home what they're learning to their families and change the trajectory of how their own family is eating. And that's such an empowering opportunity for kids, but it's great for the whole family and the whole community. And I know I was at a couple years ago. This was at Sun River Healthcare, and they were doing cooking demonstrations too to show. Some of the immigrant communities were showing how they would use some of the vegetables that were being grown, and then other people were showing how they would use it, and so sort of really diversifies your cooking options when those what are we going to make with all this squash or or eggplants or whatever it is and people all those cucumbers and at the end of the season and I think this is really just been kind of a community building and enriching opportunity as well as just making sure that people have healthy food in all corners of our district.
It sounds like, these programs are sort of tackling it from a lot of different angles. And I was going to ask what you think maybe would be the best approach to sort of start addressing this issue. It intersects with so many different other issues. I mean, you've got things like poverty and mental health and homelessness. Mm-hmm. I recently spoke with someone who successfully battled addiction, but they said they were homeless for a little while. And one of the things that they sort of discovered through that experience was that, food pantries are great, but they only do so much if you don't have a stove to cook on.
Exactly.
So when it comes to how we should address this issue, is there a particular avenue that you would like to come at it from?
I think the multifaceted approach is really the way to go because, I always say that about the state of New York and about my district, but, there's no one size fits all model for anything. We do have a very diverse region and state, and people are coming from different cultural backgrounds. They're of different ages. They have different experiences with food. Some people love to cook. Some people, don't want anything to do with it. People are vegetarian and vegan and meat eaters and all of those things. So I think having models that really accept where people are is the best way to get them to engage. And, in the long run, it's what's going to be most successful.
On that front, do you see any other programs or opportunities that either the community can get involved or that the state can get involved to bring some extra help here?
Well, I think the community can always be involved, and I know all of the food pantries right here in just outside of Hudson and Greenport, the Veterans Food Pantry. They're always looking for for more food, and that's in their Joseph Dwyer Center, the Columbia County Regional or Recovery Kitchen is collecting money and needs money. I know in Menia, I think it's the Food of Life Pantry. They just had reached out on an event that they're having called Feeding Fashion, where people have donated nice top quality clothes that they're would otherwise give to a friend, and they're going to sell it and raise money for the food pantry. I think there's a lot of different ways, and there is such a robust farm community in the two counties that I represent, and it's really a caring community. I mean, they take care of each other. There's a long history of that in agriculture, but also just being there with their food and looking for the outlets to work with, whether it's community food pantries or faith-based organizations, churches and synagogues, or veterans or with municipal programs. I mean, they're all they're all meeting a need. So it's not like we're, over producing for this. There's a need, and it continues to be there.
I had a couple questions also on some other issues that are happening around the state here.
No, happy to.
I know that you were among the officials who called for the Public Service Commission to have in-person public hearings in addition to the virtual hearings it's been having on the proposed rate hike by Central Hudson. I was wondering, I know because they said they will do that at a later date now. Have you heard anything from them as far as like further details on that just yet? I know they haven't necessarily had a date in mind, but have you heard anything on that front about where that's headed?
No, but I was very pleased to hear that they are going to do that. The PSC did respond. They had gotten our letter, and then we heard the weekend that they were going to act on it. People in this region have been through so much with Central Hudson, and they've just brought this new rate case, and people are still struggling with with the costs, and so I think it's really behooves Central Hudson to be as open and candid and engaged with the community as they possibly can. So look forward to seeing what the plan is, but I'm glad that that's what the PSC has understood as well.
I know that the PSC has said in the past that like utilities will often request rates that are higher than what they actually get. Are you optimistic that that could actually be the case here, and that things won't be as high, or are you a little bit more on guard?
I think that they probably do. Anybody negotiating starts a little bit higher, but when you're looking at 2-digit increases, I think that's that's what they're looking for, and it's a lot of money. We just saw in the city that Con Ed had the same thing, and they settled for it's a lot. So we are very concerned with ratepayer issues. I am now the chair of the Assembly's Committee on Energy, and we had a hearing a couple months ago on on a kind of baseline hearing with a lot of the utilities and others on rate cases and how they're decided, and what we're looking at in terms of how much it's costing the ratepayers themselves. And then we're hoping to do another one this fall that would look at integrating all the goals that we that we're working to reach for the CLCPA, and understanding how they also will impact the ratepayer, and that on top of these rate cases that are being brought. We really need to understand what everything is going to cost and who's going to pay for them. So.
Have you heard anything from constituents about there still being billing errors from Central Hudson?
I think that a lot of the billing error issues have been dealt with. I know that Central Hudson has made an effort to be much more transparent and available, and I think that's been to a large extent successful. They recognize that that they messed up, there was a problem, and that they've definitely want to, or at least expressed their desire to do things differently. So but we haven't been hearing more complaints specifically about that, but people are concerned about about this rate case. I mean, they know that means it's going to cost them more. So we have heard from people about that, definitely.
Looking ahead to the budget, I know it's pretty far ahead now, but what is your outlook? Do you expect it to be a tougher budget, or what are your priorities sort of as we get ready?
I think it will be a tougher budget. We came through the pandemic, and then we're fortunate to have a lot of resources at the federal level that that helped in a lot of different programs. I just spent several hours today at a conference on housing. That's certainly on my radar screen as a really important issue: affordable and energy efficient housing, more housing, but making sure that it is that we're doing it in as green a way as possible. But I have this strong feeling, and I had the speaker here last month to show him how here in our beautiful Hudson Valley region, it's not really the same as a New York City housing solution, or even, a Westchester or other suburban or even upstate cities. I mean, we are not New York City, we're not suburban Westchester, but we're also not, the cities and even the communities on the Route 90 corridor there. We kind of have our own quirky, rural, small cities structure here, which we love. We have beautiful natural resources. It's a gorgeous place to live. A lot of farms, but that requires different approaches to creating affordable housing, which everyone recognizes we need, and understanding the scale and understanding the location. So, I'm very interested in that housing piece. I think that we need to be looking at our healthcare systems. I'm very troubled by the lack of services in, both mental health and physical health here in our region, and how fewer and fewer hospitals are offering maternity or labor delivery. It's not the way to attract young families when you're not allowing young families to to have that health care close to home. So those are some of the issues, certainly energy issues that we're continuing to work on. But yes, we're starting to look at the budget and what we want to push for.
New York Republicans have been calling for a special session to talk about the influx of asylum seekers into the state. Do you feel that there's really any need or necessity for that right now, or can that wait for, I guess, the actual legislative session?
Well, first of all, immigration is a federal issue, and some of the people calling for this are members of Congress who should be addressing the immigration issues right now, and that's what we should be doing. We need to have a program that's funded for these asylum seekers. They're all here legally. They're here through programs that that are part of our government policy. And I think being able to figure out how to help them get into the workforce, be sure the kids who are going to school are are having a safe and positive experience, but being sure that our municipalities are compensated. I mean, it's not fair to put this exclusively, on our upstate communities, or New York City for that matter, if there isn't a program in place. So I think it's really important that, this be looked at holistically and addressed. I don't think it requires a session. I don't know exactly what the legislature would do, because it's not something that we should be funding now in this, as in the state. I think we need to have a plan and a program, and I think we have plenty of time in the new year to come up with with bigger ways to address some of the immigration issues that are under our purview, but let the federal government do the part that they're responsible for.
Okay, thanks to Jesse King for that interview, and thanks to you for listening. Until next time, I'm Ian Pickus.